Finally, on the Donglang or Doklam section of the China-India border, China said Monday it had made on-site checks of India's withdrawal of personnel and equipment from Donglang, also known as Doklam, after over 2 months of military standoff. On June the 18th, hundreds of armed Indian troops with 2 bulldozers crossed the boundary into Doklam, China's territory, to obstruct Chinese infrastructure construction. The standoff was followed by another skirmish in mid-August along the line of actual control near the Pangong Lake in the western part of the China-India boundary. Now that the standoff in Donglang or Doklam has ended, some questions still remain. China and India are 2 nations with great history, also both are nuclear-armed countries. Together we have a combined population of 2.7 billion. Can the 2 rising countries get along in the future while they grow in confidence and reach? Welcome to The Point, live from Beijing. I'm Li Xin, and today I'm pleased to be joined in the studio by Vishnu Sharma, New Delhi TV's defense editor and principal anchor, and You Dongxiao, associate professor at the International College of Defense Studies, the National Defense University of China. But before we start the discussion, let's first take a listen to what Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Hua Chunying said earlier today during a routine press conference.
8月28日下午14点30分许。
At 14:30 August 20th, India pulled back its troops and equipment to the Indian side of the border. Chinese personnel there have confirmed this. China will continue to exert its sovereign rights according to historical boundary treaties. We hope India will abide by historical conventions and basic principles in international law and maintain the peace and tranquility in the border region together with China on the basis of respecting each other's sovereignty to boost the development of bilateral ties.
So a piece of good news at the right moment. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. Vishnu, first of all, welcome to China.
Thank you.
Yes, and NDTV actually is one of the first TV stations to break this news. How important is this for your TV organization?
No, it's very important, I think, not just for my TV organization, but for people in India and people in China. June is when the standoff started. The standoff has ended. I think it's important that India and China bring their relations on an even keel. As speaking for my organization, it's been a lead story for a very long time, and it'll certainly be the lead story at the moment, also tomorrow, but for once, for all the good reasons, that it's over. It's done with. We do not need standoffs between 2 nuclear-armed neighbors, and hopefully going forward, we won't have situations like this again.
I know it's a bit early, we're just hours away from when the news broke, but so far from the information you already got, how have the Indian public been reacting to this?
I think the Indian public would certainly look at this as a very positive development, a development which marks the accumulation of obviously successful diplomacy. As you know, diplomacy requires 2 or more partners to work in unison towards a common goal. In this particular instance, China and India appear to have done that quite successfully. If you ask me personally, I saw the Doklam crisis going on potentially for several years. But the fact of the matter is it has ended within a period of months, and that's very welcome news. And I'm sure that would be very well received politically and certainly among people in the country.
Professor Yu, what is the Chinese version, the Chinese reaction from you and your colleagues in the national defense community? How have you been receiving this piece of story?
I think it's definitely a good news. Finally, this tension has de-escalated, and the standoff ended through peaceful means and through the efforts of diplomats, not military officers. I think it's a very good, positive tendency. So I think my colleagues are very happy to see this 2 months long military standoff in Donglang area finally peacefully over.
What could we learn from this episode? I mean, there are obviously various reasons from the Indian side, for instance, Vishnu. What do you think can be drawn from this experience for the Indian side?
Well, for starters, India has got certain red lines. China obviously has certain concerns and red lines as well. We need to understand that the line of actual control, the boundary, as it were, between India and China has not been defined. And therefore, we need to respect each other's red lines. By and large, there is a mechanism in place. That mechanism ensures that there is a peaceful situation. this is an aberration, this particular situation in Doklam, just because of the geography in that particular region. China has concerns about India's infrastructure development. India has concerns about China's infrastructure development in this particular, along the line of actual control and the boundary between the two countries. The reason Doklam became a particular problem was because of Doklam was very, very close to a part of India which we call the Chicken's Neck, an area that connects India with our northeastern states. It's a very narrow sliver of land between Bangladesh to the south and China to the north in the Yadung Valley. By making roads in this particular area, India felt threatened. But India is not in denial of the fact that China has claims in this area. India understands it's a bilateral issue between Bhutan and China at one level. But obviously, when it comes to a tri-junction area, if there is a move in constructing roads which changes the way or the area where the tri-junction is located, then because it's tri, there are three countries, there's India, there's China, and there's Bhutan, which is why we were concerned in this particular case.
Professor Yu, do you agree with what Vishnu said, especially the part where this area is under dispute between China and India? What is the Chinese version?
Actually, the problem is that why China, especially China's ambassador to India, described this standoff as the most serious standoff between our two countries in the past 30 years. Actually, China and India, we have a 2,000 kilometers long common border, and we have such kind of standoff or kind of a conflict is not new. But this time, why is we describe the most serious? Because this sector, the Sea King sector on the Chinese-Indian border is a delimited border between our two countries, not like other part of a section of border which has not been delimited. So there we have only, just as Vishnu mentioned, there's a line of actual control. But this